Welcome, I'm Nina Griffin, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel. Today we'll talk about Mars in Aries and his passage through the 12 houses. First, I wanted to say thank you to all of my patrons. If you would like to become a patron and get early access, and in many cases access to exclusive videos about astrology and astrological magic, as well as monthly Q&As and the monthly magical elections document, go ahead and visit patreon.com/Nina Griffin. All right, let's get started. So Mars will be in Aries June 27th, 2020 through January 6th, 2021, so a solid 6 months. This is being recorded in August, so many of us will already have had experience with Mars in Aries and getting a sense of basically what's going on, how it might impact our lives. Nonetheless, we are going to be dealing with him here for 6 months. And of course, he will be passing through different houses depending on where Aries is in our natal chart. So today's video will focus on the way that Mars in Aries is likely to manifest for you. Now, Mars in any sign is going to bring battle, conflict, disruption to that sign and house. On the plus side, he might also bring increased energy and the opportunity to decisively resolve problems. Now, Mars usually spends 2 months in each sign, passing through all the 12 signs in about 2 years. However, when he goes retrograde and direct in a given sign, he will spend a lot longer there because he's moving so slowly. And that's what's happening here. Mars will be retrograding entirely in the sign of Aries, and so Aries is going to host Mars for literally 6 months. What this means in practice is that when Mars just zips through on his usual route, we kind of get a single episode, if you will, a single episode of a soap opera. However, when he is in a sign for a longer period of time, like now, we're going to get the sense that we're really living through a multi-episode storyline of the soap opera of our lives. And I think this is something that we need to keep in mind. This is not generally going to be a one-and-done experience, but because of Mars retrograde action, you'll see that he's going to essentially bring back or revivify certain things that we thought may be done or should have been dealt with much more quickly. Now, the intensity of the effect that we may experience with Mars in Aries will depend on 3 factors. One is whether Mars or the house sign in question is being activated through certain techniques, through certain predictive techniques that we use in astrology. These would be profections, primary directions, solar returns, Feardaria, that kind of thing. We also have to take into consideration the angularity of the house that Mars is passing through. The angular houses 1, 4, 7, and 10 are the most immediate and intense, and that's followed by the succeeding houses 2, 5, 8, and 11, which are sort of medium in their intensity. And then the least intense houses will be 3, 6, 9, and 12, which are the cadent. We also have to consider whether Mars will make any aspects to natal planets as he passes through Aries. You're much more likely to feel this transit even if Mars passes through a cadent house if you have, let's say, a natal planet in the 6th house that he will then conjoin as he makes his transit. Let's get started on the houses then. So the angular houses will go first. If Aries is your 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th house, he is passing through an angular house for you. So the ascendant, of course, is going to be the most important, but really all the angles are important. I always think of the angular houses as essentially the stakes that hold down our tent and prevent it from flying away. These are the key areas of our lives that keep our lives together and on track. The ascendant represents the body, vitality, and the level of health that you're experiencing, as well as your identity and personality or behavior. So as Mars passes through this house, you may become a martial person now. You may find yourself exhibiting aggression and anger, certainly more intensity and drive. You might even start battles or conflicts at this time. You certainly will be more than usually busy and active now. Now, because this is the house of the body, there is a possibility that you could experience like an inflammatory condition or injury as Mars passes through, These are commonly associated with Mars. But because Mars will be here for a while, you also will have a chance to really get rid of at the root of this underlying condition. So even though he'll be here for a long time, we can think of it as an opportunity. Now, if Aries is your fourth house, the activity that you will experience is more likely to happen under the surface, in a hidden or even a subconscious way, but it will still wield considerable influence in your life. There could also be conflict or disruption pertaining to your home or any real estate that you may own, as sometimes this can indicate repairs or demolition, something Marsy happening in the home. As well, disruption or conflict could impact your parents or grandparents, particularly the father or grandfather, as this is another fourth house meaning. So you'll have to think about what are the possibilities with respect to family, particularly elders in the family. Now, if Aries is your seventh house, that is, you have Libra rising, the battle is going to be brought to you from somewhere else. That is the nature of the seventh house. It's the outside, it's the outer world. So it could be a, good old-fashioned conflict or contest, since seventh is the house of opponents and enemies. But it could also be someone who's close to you, a partner, whether a romantic or business partner. You could experience some conflict or even a separation from someone like this. It could also be some conflict with a coworker, another seventh house person. Now, in very rare cases, this transit could indicate being a victim of a crime. So it's good to be extra cautious right now. This is because the seventh also rules thieves and people that we don't know who are perpetrating crimes on us. And Mars is one of the planets that's commonly associated with criminality. Now, if Aries is your 10th house, you may experience some disruption to your public life or public image. And this could be some kind of very public conflict that has to do with your image or your personality that you sort of project as part of your work, or a separation. There could be a conflict or just heightened activity at work, either pertaining to the job itself or to the work environment. Some time ago, when I had this transit, when it happened in the 10th house, we had to move offices. There wasn't really conflict, but it was definitely disruptive, and there were a lot of people who were very unhappy about having to make changes. Now, this house also rules the mother or grandmother, and so there could be some kind of activity or urgency pertaining to her. Now, moving on to the succedent houses, if Aries is your second house, then he will impact primarily money and resources that support you. The most common manifestation of Mars in the second are going to be expenses or sometimes a disruption to your income. Mars energizes your money, although generally money does not like being energized. It just likes to sit there and quietly grow, ideally. So most of the time as Mars passes through the second, you will experience some outflows of money, either that weren't planned, or even if they were planned, it's just more than you are used to. If Aries is your fifth house, this is the house of arts and entertainment, socializing, sex and romance, and of course children. So there could be conflict in any of these areas of life. Very often we see that things that are supposed to be fun and bring us joy and relaxation could actually be a source of some stress or contention at this time. Of course, because this is the house of children, your children or the drive to have children, if you don't have any yet, might need extra attention at this time. There certainly could be additional activity for people who are, for example, getting, fertility treatments or something like that. If Aries is your 8th house, this is the house of anxiety, loss, loans and debts, death and inheritances. I should mention that it's very unlikely that you will personally die at this time. Much more likely you'll see activity around shared resources or money that you owe, as well as money that is owed you, but generally this is money that you owe others. There could also be just a heightened sense of fear and anxiety combined with heightened activity, kind of a nervous fear or something like that. In addition, if there is an inheritance that's being disputed or distributed at this time, it could be contested or the subject of disagreements because the 8th house does rule goods or money from dead people. The 11th house represents friends and patrons. And so here, when Mars passes through the 11th, we could be talking about, of course, conflict with friends or just a separation. You know, a friend could be moving away now, or you're moving away from your friends. Generally, the people on whom we rely to be friendly and helpful to us could temporarily become a source of stress or just heightened activity at this point. For example, you could be called upon to do a friend a favor at some inconvenience to yourself. A friend could be asking you to move. You might have a couple friends asking you to move because Mars will be in this house for so long. Now, if Aries is your 3rd house, this is the house of siblings, extended family, and neighbors, so there could be some conflict or additional urgency with any of these people. Now, it can also indicate a disruption in your neighborhood, right? Someone is doing loud construction right next door, or a dispute between neighbors, something like that. This is also the house of short distance or local travel. So this is a good time to be very cautious on these types of trips, you know, going to the grocery store, driving to the next town, something like this. So really don't take unnecessary trips at this time and plan ahead. Assume that there could be some kind of martial event that could happen, perhaps even an accident, something like that. Now the 6th house, if that's Aries for you, is of course the house of illness and accidents. So Mars here could bring about a new illness, or just it might bring back a prior issue that you've been dealing with. Typically it's going to be of an inflammatory or a sudden type of illness. You could have a sports injury or exercise injury. In any case, because Mars is here for so long, this is really a great opportunity to try to work through the problem and really address it at the root cause level due to Mars' lengthy stay in this sign. Now, this is also the house of pets and small animals. So there could be a new Mars-like animal in your life right now. Or if you have an animal, it could just require additional attention because Mars will be here for so long. There could be a longer process involving a pet. In any case, be gentle with yourself and with your animals. Don't be aggressive, however tempting it may be, and just have patience. Now, the 9th house represents long-distance travel, foreign countries and people, spirituality and religion, as well as legal matters or lawyers. Conflict or disruption in these areas could happen. Sometimes you could have like a difficult or a sudden journey, for example. Given that we live in pandemic times, this could indicate getting an inflammatory disease on a long journey. So if you aren't planning to make any longer trips, protect yourself accordingly. And know that it's going to be sort of in the environment where you are. Finally, Aries in the 12th house is usually, it could be some kind of restriction of your freedom, possibly even jail, although that's very unlikely. Secret enemies as well belong in this house, people who inform on you or intrigue against you sort of behind your back for purposes of sabotaging you. It can also be a house of illness or places that we sabotage ourselves. As we say, this is the house of bad life choices. Now, it could be, with Mars in here, we could be seeing a sabotage from enemies, but it could also just be personal bad decisions that can be avoided. So we can think of this period as teaching important, if possibly painful lessons. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Nina Griffin, and again, please visit the Astrology and Magic channel on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe for more videos, or go to patreon.com/Nina Griffin.